when I look at this project, I don't know who the critique is. I don't know what they're critiquing.
I feel like there's this real embrace right now of trying to take down the pristine.
I think there's this like anti-tech culture happening right now.
Definitely.
Like, I think it's not cool to be super digital.
Architecture is the big A, has lost the plot because everyone's gone into these little niches a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm currently questioning the way I teach because of this stuff.
Yeah. Welcome back to Mixed Signals. Welcome to Season 2 of Mixed Signals.
Season 2, we're back.
Episode 16.
Hello.
Do you guys feel well rested? Did you have a good break?
I feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nihar, how you feeling?
I got a lot of sleep. It was great.
That's good.
I went to New Orleans over break.
Went to New Orleans?
Yeah, I was great, but I did not prepare for it at all because we're waiting in 30-degree weather in front of my house. And I look at my sister. I'm like, I brought pants, I brought t-shirts, and I brought a sweater. Should I brought more sweaters? She goes, sweaters? What the fuck are you thinking? And I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, did you not check the weather? And I was like, no. And she goes, it's 74 minimum, man. I was like, ah, shit, my bad.
You're doing the cut-off sleeves on your sweaters, and I think we have a lot of fun topics to cover
What's
today.
next?
Actually. Yeah, so there's a very kind of big topic to address. We've been talking about a podcast that's really interesting, and we'll probably dive into this on another episode in more detail. But one of the provocations of the podcast is this question of why doesn't this generation probably being not exactly our generation of academics, but maybe the ones just before us, why don't they want to publish books? And I think this provoked an interesting thought that you had.
just to kind of give them props. It's the Attention podcast by Architectural Exchange. You should go check it out,
really
especially like the season 8 or
We're going to dig into more of it.
Yeah, but it's really good. You should go listen to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
The provocation of what now? What was the argument?
Meaning that the question was, why doesn't your generation want to write books anymore? Why aren't books and texts relevant? This is a topic that we've touched on before
Or
in different
exhibitions
episodes.
we were talking about.
Yeah,
as well.
analog modes of expression in architecture have definitely taken a step back. Now you have a book on your desk right now, or on our desk.
My coffee.
What's the book?
Mute icons.
Mute icons.
So just to say, books are absolutely important. They're still relevant. But I think the comment here, the question here is, obviously this younger generation of practitioners, of academics, are not necessarily using books to drive their own discourse as much as maybe the previous generations had. And I think a question you had raised is, there's a huge amount of desire to increase maybe our legibility with the general public, finding ways to reach the general public, and we do that through different means. We do that through social media. We do that through what we're trying to do here at MXD, which is trying to meet people where they are in discourse.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think, like, to start off, my question that I ask myself, which I'll ask you, is how important is being published in books and journals? How important is that today in comparison to, let's say, 10 years ago, 20 years ago? To me, it doesn't seem like it's that important. If my aim is to kind of reach a certain amount of population, audience, whatever you want to call it, a critical mass, that's not the academic sphere. And so if it's only about reaching the academic sphere, then something seems broken at the institute level. Right? Yep. So the fact that's their value system, your value system is the elite 10 people that check off whether you get tenured or not, like, or whether you get your PhD dissertation approved or whatever. Like, that seems ridiculous. Mm-hmm. Like, because aren't we doing academia? Because I think people forgot why they do things. Like, people forgot why they make books. Books was supposed to be meant to reach the larger masses, to inform people. Mm-hmm. If now information is consumed and people get their knowledge through other means, then maybe you need to adapt. And so my question that I ask myself is, well, why would I care if like someone was like, no, you need to get work published in journals and stuff for your career? I was like, why? That's not going to give me a job. TikTok gets people jobs these days. I've heard of construction companies get jobs through Instagram reels that they make, right? It's not even using newspapers. It's using TikTok. It's so, and I understand that there's an issue of like authenticity and kind of research that's not accredited or not like not pre-reviewed by like a peer group that might say this is misinformation. Totally understand. I understand why you would not say that your research is credible because you posted something on TikTok. But let's use our brains here. We understand that we have greater impact when we use social media. Yeah, that's it.
For sure. And I think it's weird to me that academia doesn't really view it that way. Now, we have covered before the fact that some institutions are trying to shift that a little bit and trying to maybe cultivate their own ways of having a larger or wider discourse. But I do think most places you go, if you're trying to get a job in academia, it's not the easiest to just cite this sort of work in that process. I don't know. I'm sure you have some thoughts and feelings about that.
Yeah, no, I'm still gathering some of my.
You're still loading?
I'm still loading a bit.
I would put you in the camp of you're definitely a writer.
What is
right?
your emotion? Like, what's your emotion? Like when someone says that, how do you feel? Like you don't even have to think about it. Like what do you like when someone says
Your point of
like it's to be more relevant, I guess, or to be more heard. You should probably stop writing as much and spend your time creating video essays or whatever, or Twitter posts.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with I don't it's a tricky line because for me there's value to writing and like I actually use it to discover things or like for me to learn more or for me to express things like internally that I'm grappling with.
Well,
And
We're talking about
we're talking about publications. We're not talking about like writing. Like, of course, I still write a lot, but it's just the act of getting published.
Where do you put your work? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to.
You're putting your effort where to get published a lot because academia has trained us to do that.
But I think the conversation we were having yesterday, which is different from how I treat writing, is we were talking about how former generations legitimize themselves and their work through prop themselves up, and so the conversation we're having now is who's that reaching or why.
So just to clarify this, there's two things we're making comments on. One is Rem Koolhaas writing Delirious New York to get his theories out there to the general public without the institution kind of without a need of approval from an institute, right? Just kind of people writing manifestos and books. That's one thing on your own as a professional. Two is kind of putting your effort into publications for the approval of the institute or whoever you work for. Right. That's the other thing. So there's two things. One is self manifestation. The other one is institute pressure.
You mentioned this yesterday, and that's something we should bring up, that at any time you see an architect or an academic release a book, it is generally because they're looking for a tenure position.
So if you see an architect that's in the academic sphere and they're releasing a book, most likely aligns to the fact that they're applying for tenure. Yeah, not always, but especially a younger professor who's definitely on tenure track. Right. That means hey, I got it.
By the way, I love books. There's nothing wrong with that. But let's talk about there is one thing. We're not moving off topic. I just want to bring up the counterpoint to that, which is we're pointing out some accounts that get a massive following. But these people, I would say, are not necessarily always regarded as high. I mean, there's exceptions to this, but we're looking at one person's profile right now. This is somebody that I find really interesting, who I think a lot of people that even listen to this podcast would know. They've probably seen him on social media. His name's Saul Kim. He was educated in the U.S., but he teaches in South Korea. I forget where. K-won University, I think, Art and Design. Just an interesting guy, and he built an amazing career, but from a really exceptional social media following, from posting these little projects and vignettes and studies. And I'm just trying to point out maybe some people really do appreciate this work, and I know I do, but I think there's a certain generation that doesn't necessarily look at this as an accepted form of media for research. I mean, maybe they would look at the work as research, but they would say well, where's the book? Where's the publication? Where's the exhibition of the work? And now he is doing all those things to say that he's moved into that territory.
Yeah. I mean, to go back to the Attention podcast, I think it was mentioned. Some people were, when asked about social media real quickly, it's just people post there, but it's snippets and it's not a manifesto. And I guess that kind of discontinuation of an argument is the problem for some people, but problem for who? Yeah. You just got to understand how we consume information and how we process a project, let's say. And then the question of the project comes into play. What's the project these days? Project is kind of a long argument. I actually think because of our fast, quick-paced media, I don't think we comprehend I think that the term project, it needs to evolve.
It means something different.
Yeah, it needs to evolve. It's not it doesn't have to be a kind of a linear long message that you build up with a bunch of references. For me, I kind of feel lost. And again, this is my biased opinion. I'm not saying people shouldn't have their projects, but for me, it's is that long-winded manifesto argument a better project, and for who, by the way, than someone that has developed an insane sensibility that's just striking and people just gravitate towards it?
And the project might have many different live ends of growth. You might be pursuing many different interests, and I think that's great. We're also showing now some of Euler Wu's work, and they're another one to point out, just say like, obviously they're established different category, but they have massive followings online. And I don't think you can discredit the fact that they use social media as a way to gain an audience. And it's cool. I think it's like our students are way more likely to know about Euler Wu's work than maybe they are some of the other heroes in that space, just because they're very much more present in the social media space.
Well, so I want to pick up on something because I think it's interesting what you're saying, Waleed. I think maybe the sunsetting or old school way to carve a name for yourself or make a niche is going through that long-winded argument and just gaining an inch on some aspect. And I think it's because, like, how do you do something radically new in architecture given the old methods and writing and proof of whatever you're doing being through writing being one? But I think what you're saying, and it's going unacknowledged, is people are creating niches or doing interesting things through social media. It's just not verified through those old methods, and so it's being overlooked. I mean, I don't want to give away some of the magic that might be coming later, but like looking at old references and re-enlivening them through social media means, it doesn't take a whole expose or essay to do that. And so we're at this like weird crux moment. I mean, the other thing that came to mind too with like lack of publishing, lack of exhibitions, and kind of some of the problem of tenure checking a box because of this need to like make your name, grab some kind of notoriety by the inch, is a lot of people in our generation or the near generation have gone into smaller niches. Like I think on like smaller little groups where you can verify yourself as a name within that smaller community. And then sometimes I think that legitimacy is gained through other disciplines. Like I think of the Acadia kind of camp, and they've got this digital thing and they can all affirm themselves and their voice within that community rather than architecture writ large like REM. But also
those subcultures that have emerged.
The subcultures. And then you're also not affirmed just by architects. You're affirmed by programmers or by roboticists or whatever. And you get this like voice that treads between camps. But I think that does mean architecture is the big A has lost the plot because everyone's gone into these little niches a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was the discourse of a specific generation that's in this podcast, the Attention podcast, kind of just saying like they're really about pluralism, this kind of plurality that they can be in everything, and they don't like to be camped in one identity. I think maybe that's a generational thing.
Because there's like safety in that for legitimacy, as we're taught. Like,
I mean, I also think it's childish. Like, to be honest, just wake up, look at yourself, and tell me, are you really all these things or not? You're one identity. Get the fuck out of here. That's how I look at it.
But also, like in the era that the older generation came from, where maybe you studied under one or two people that were super important for your research, and you were exposed to a handful of ideas in that camp. You didn't get the chance to have a multiplicity of maybe project directions. Maybe you kind of had a few options. The fact is now is like we're exposed to so much, and faculty now move across to like they mentioned, even geographically move to different places, and there's a lot of exchange of ideas. That there has been some flattening across the discourse.
I mean, society-wise, I mean, what's our means of measurement of like a valid project, whatever you want to call it, an argument? Like what's the means to measure? What's attention span? What's the larger population's input on whether a project is relevant or not? Because the other thing is like, what, you think Peter Eisenman's project is relevant for the majority of people? It's not. Right. Like, who the fuck told you it is? Yeah. It isn't. It's important in architecture academia. I guess at this point is like, we have to ask ourselves, well, who is this for? Is this just for the small circle? I think someone, I forget who it was saying like, I think it was, I forget who it was. Anyway, they were like, it's like a comedian making jokes for comedians. Like, who the fuck does that? Right. Like, that's what we do. It's weird. I mean, like, don't you want to reach and influence people? Like, when I educate, I want to influence people to give them just a little bit of references so they can go and advance themselves. Like, I want to educate people. I want to expose people to stuff. I'm not trying to shove my project and say, look how awesome I am.
Yeah.
I think that's the problem. I think the old model was like, look how fucking awesome I am.
And I
Yeah,
also don't want to
totally.
be the one that's like, my project's awesome and everyone else is dumb. I think that era needs to stop. It's like, I like being able to see that there's a multiplicity of projects and ideas. I think that's great.
And I will say, I am the academic that loves these critical projects and post-critical projects and these theory. I love it. I love it. It's just me observing that my students don't necessarily appreciate it the same way I do, and that's okay. But so it's like, just I understand like you liking what you do, but you got to remember you're part of a larger community and you have like a service to provide, and you can't be so biased. That's it. And so I'm currently questioning the way I teach because of this stuff.
Yeah. No, me too. I agree. And I feel like that podcast has provoked a lot of interesting conversations that'll keep coming up. But here's Walimoto's, what is this one?
Glittery
We lost the
pick.
camera.
Why is this here?
I don't know. Maggie fell asleep while we were talking about, no, I'm just kidding.
For reference, we're looking at one of Waleed's posts, material test, foam dipped in a thin cement layer and iced with glitter.
Dude,
It
I
looks
really want
yummy.
I really want
dude,
a Pop-Tart.
It looks
It does
so
look like a
good.
Pop-Tart.
It looks so good.
That's cement and foam.
Can we talk about some interesting aesthetic things that I found? Talking about this idea of how, I guess, forecasting some design trends in 2026, DZine put out this article about rough around the edges design. And I think it's an interesting idea that somehow we're almost losing a little bit of like that immaculate perfection of the aesthetic of architecture, and that we've already seen this. We unpacked student trends from last term about, clumsy aesthetics, maybe even sloppy aesthetics, things like that. But I feel like there's this real embrace right now of trying to take down the pristine. And I'm just curious what you guys what you think about that. And
I want to,
Yeah.
ask a question and push back because I love it. Like,
Yeah.
but it reminds me of a landscape lecture, and I won't say who, but they're taught. I think that's a really cool practice, and they're talking, and they're like, and yeah, we're just, we don't have an aesthetic agenda. Like, they're very lackadaisical, but in the Q&A, the person, they're like, you like dismiss that you have this aesthetic agenda, and you totally do. So I wonder, it's like treading a funny line where it's saying it's really casual and not, but it's doing that at a perfected
Yeah.
level.
Sorry.
Yeah.
This we're going back to the attention.
Yeah, I know,
podcast.
and I probably
actually, I'm just gonna quote. It was Andrew Holder that
Yes.
mentioned the kind of. I think he was talking about new office, I believe. First office.
Yeah,
It's like,
First
we
office.
don't
First
take
office,
this
sorry.
serious,
Yeah.
but it's like really, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, so Andrew Holder kind of mentioning First Office's work tries to present itself as kind of like dumb and like, clumsy, but it's like the most attention detailed project you could think of in terms of its fabrication, and there's all these like wonderful moments of being super precise and careful and thoughtful. And so you presenting yourself as dumb who's that for? Like, are you just trying to label yourself as something? And I think that the best way, not the best way, another way of looking at it is like Paul Preisner mentioned before, I think in a lecture,
Kind of
I don't know.
boring.
Yeah, but Paul Preisner's argument, I think I've heard him say in lectures, is that the amateurness that gets presented in a project. Maybe it was someone, maybe Michael Speaks reviewing Paul Preisner's work. It's just like, this isn't amateur like in the same way that some random person that's on the job site for the first time's amateur, right? Mm-hmm. This is a very controlled project, and it's kind of the difference between like maybe there's like two terms you might like replace amateur with something else, and one means that you're highly critical, and the other means that you don't know what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And so it's like this kind of seems what is it called, rough around the edges?
Yeah.
That kind of seems like it's an aesthetic to try to label themselves. And then you ask the question, why are we doing this? It's probably a political thing. It's a societal thing of not trying to be kind of elite perfectionist. And I think there's like an anti-tech culture happening right now.
Definitely.
Like, I think it's not cool to be super digital. I think that's like, everyone wants to like have rough collage sketches and things like that, like craft book style aesthetic. I think that's really hot for most industries these days, from like graphics to fashion to architecture to art. It's just popular.
But the comment there that I thought was interesting was Andrew Holder saying, like, look, they're trying to claim a new aesthetic territory in a way, and they find it to be a new frontier that's just a little bit unmined. But obviously, they're not dumb. Obviously, they're not aiming to be boring. I think Michael Young said it really well, actually. Like, yeah, there's an anti-tech vein to this argument, but the reality is all of the people that we're talking about use technology extremely in depth. It's just that they're using it for an aesthetic that is maybe a little bit less explored. So I think that's a super interesting conversation. It's very contemporary in architecture, but also Dezeen is pointing out some other product designers that are taking this on. They showed some cool chairs, a lamp. Actually, we're
so the New York, that's a
Yeah,
go
that's
up, go
first
up.
office,
Go to the PSA one thing. Yeah, well, sorry.
the one below.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
That's the project that Andrew Holder was referencing
Yeah.
in terms of one of the projects he was referencing in terms of first office's work. It's the PSA one entry that they had.
It reminds me a lot, and I'm not going to, but we had brought up street fashion, like being
Yeah.
commodified by high-end fashion companies. And I do, like, maybe I'm just so much of a Luddite. I'm like, I don't get it. Like,
You don't get what?
in the fashion sense, and I guess this too, like, yeah, who are they? It's the comedian talking to themselves, right?
Oh,
Of
yeah,
like, look,
probably.
we can do this
I don't
thing.
think so. I think Andrew Holder's argument is that he's trying to, I mean, at least in the terms of the architecture, his view is that by using more common materials, by making it even almost revealing a vulnerability, he's arguing that it's making it more accessible. He's arguing that it's more legible. Even like if you look at like how the material selection, the palette, we like to use like American framing, like looking at the stick frame, the very prosaic materials. I think he's trying to say like this is actually trying to be a very
People said the word, not his word, but other people use the word democratic.
yeah.
I find that to be a weird
That's
term to be
weird.
used.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Democratic doesn't feel as good to me. I thought Andrew Holder summarized it really well to say that he's trying to invite people into the project in a way that is legible. It's not about the digital project of concealing, the materiality, concealing the seam, doing something that seems impossible, doing a magic trick. It's about saying there are formal qualities to be had even in the banal. I really think that's an interesting territory to work in.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and I think maybe that goes back to like Bob Sommel's arguments
totally.
of post-critical, him and Sarah Whiting, and the magic trick thing. Funny thing you say that is like Jeffrey Kipnis for years would always say, and I think to this day he says, as an architect, you just need that magic trick. Yeah. Like Peter Eisman has a magic trick.
Right.
Wolf Prix has that magic trick. You need the magic trick, and obviously he was in the critical camp. I don't know where the hell he sits now. I have no idea. I think he definitely moved to post-critical at some point. It doesn't fucking matter. I'm just saying like these terms, like I think it's just a comfort level.
Yeah.
It's like I think people are just questioning their ethics, and then that influences their projects and the way their projects look. I think that's actually really cool. But I don't think people are like honest themselves. Like, look, I catch myself trend hopping a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's okay. I know at the end of the day, I'm a consumer. I consume information. I consume what I see, and I just kind of reproduce it. I think a lot of people, especially people that were my professors, the generation above me, I'll say, I think because of they still are coming off of like a culture of like criticality in a way that I don't think I take as seriously. So I could be like, well, I don't give a fuck. Like I'm moving on. Like I don't care. Like, and not to say that I'm shallow. I don't think I'm that shallow per se, but it's just like
we don't see the payoff of that direction anymore.
Yeah,
because that generation didn't get the payoff.
But I think
by the way,
I think the people. Yeah, it's true. We'll get to that in a second. I think the people that say that they do dumb work, I think they really care.
Of
I don't
course.
think I actually care as much as they do. Like I'm not here to impress anybody. I don't give a fuck.
To relate this slightly to our previous conversation, though, I do think another reason to talk about these things is simply because of audience. Because if we're only interested in the highest technology means of fabrication and the highest technology means of design, it does limit your ability to maybe engage with people that are just not willing to go down that path, or maybe just don't haven't had the benefit of that education. So, well, I'm going to let Nihar vote on the next topic. Actually, Nihar, do you want to talk about 2 cultural buildings or 6 skyscrapers? You pick.
Well, in my Instagram collection of things that I have saved for Mixed Signal, I did save something that was like the top 10 skyscrapers of 2025.
You want to go skyscrapers?
So let's go skyscrapers.
Let's go skyscrapers. Yeah, I mean, I don't always actually give a shit about skyscrapers, but it is kind of interesting to see some projects that are coming online, and I think this is an interesting point that Wally just brought up.
Albania again. Here we
there's
go.
a whole it's true. There's a whole other world out there where they're still doing the digital project. I mean, look, Zaha Hadid is finishing the Central Bank of Iraq. Which is kind of interesting. It looks like the Miami high-rise that she did, just slightly modified.
When it comes to skyscrapers, they're predominantly the digital work.
Yeah, you're right.
Like
They kind of have to be.
KPF, Foster Partners.
This one was interesting to me. Mercedes-Benz, apparently, I don't know exactly what
This
the
is
deal with this project
disgusting, dude.
is designing some sort of UAE giant high-rise. I don't know anything about this
Wait,
project.
I got to mention.
Yeah.
That symbol, the Mercedes symbol that's on the exterior wall, is the same as the grills on the electric Mercedes cars these days.
Oh yeah,
That is so funny. The thing
It's
that's
kinda cool.
that was meant to ventilate an engine, but then because of the engine, the components of an electric car is not in the same
Yeah.
place. But that as a symbolic reference to the
Kinda
grill,
cool. I
and
kinda
that
like
symbolic reference that's attached to its function has now found its way at a different scale on a building. That's fucking nuts.
I
All right,
like
Yard.
I like that though, because it's like the Chrysler building in the 30s using essentially how they made fenders, right? Using the same technology to make the Art Deco ornament on the Chrysler building. This is the 2026 version of that.
That's hilarious.
I don't know anything about that project, but I thought it was cool that Mercedes-Benz was making a high rise. That's all.
Yeah.
Let's go down that list again. There was another interesting one I wanted to point out that I hadn't really. This one's boring.
It's
that one's
not
kind
digital.
of that one's kind of interesting.
Oh, Shop still does work.
Apparently, yeah, apparently they do.
Sorry.
We have some friends working there, man. Yeah, this one's kind of interesting. It doesn't look very shoppy to me. I guess maybe a little bit. I don't know. It's kind of a weird, lacy.
Maggie hates it.
Maggie's not
It
into
doesn't
it.
look like shop.
Yeah, it doesn't really look like shop. I do kind of like the base of the tower because it's kind of breaking down the scale and finding a way to work with the smaller scale urbanism around
I
it.
do want to get back to it doesn't look like shop. The fact that we
Yeah.
have to associate an aesthetic.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you're
Yeah.
wrong. I agree with
Yeah.
you. It's weird that we kind of do that. It's like it's a large office. They have different partners that lead different types of
True.
work.
Good point.
So
Good point.
Um,
Let's go back to that for just a minute here. There's one more. I want to look at that
think they're done.
Foster's one for a second. Yeah, here we go. Wait. This one was kind of interesting to me. I can't quite tell what's going on here. Maybe we could just Google this project. But look, I have a lot of beef with Foster's towers. Actually, like I feel like the one he did in Philly is god awful. I feel like the one he just did in New York City is not my favorite.
Ooh, that one is
Not my favorite.
Holy shit,
But
that
this
one's
one I
bad.
kind of was interested in. Dude, he likes recently, and I say he, you're right, the hundreds of people, thousands of people that work for him, they seem to like to make these really like chunky, super massy skyscrapers. Like they're getting to like arcology scale.
I have a feeling that I'm going to start liking that New York one eventually. At
Yeah,
first,
I
don't
know,
like it.
I
But I
know.
feel like I'm going to end up
It's
liking
going to win
it.
us over. I know
Yeah.
it will.
What is it about
The-
it you don't like?
It's just massive and feels so chunky. And
In
not-
real life, like from a distance, holy shit,
it
does not
takes
look
over
like,
the skyline.
Dude, it just does. It's like the wrong scale.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's
it
like
looks
someone
like they scaled it wrong.
up. Yeah,
I
someone just
like
scaled it
the-
up.
Oh,
The
yeah, you can have it
ground
pulled up here.
area.
The lobby is actually beautiful. I saw some
They
great
spent
photos of the lobby.
years,
Yeah.
years working on this. I
The
remember when it was under
resolution
construction.
Does look weird
It
within
just
the
feels
city.
out of scale with this city, but
Yeah, if you could find like a zoomed out image of it, you'd understand.
That.
Yeah,
How it
that's
reaches
a
the
good image.
ground.
dude,
put that
like
in
the
the mirror?
diamonds on the side that change.
No, it's like it's a fake.
Oh yeah, that's
It's
Yeah,
a fake
I
John
don't
Hancock
like it.
tower.
I don't like that.
It's like
I agree.
Does not. I love the John Hancock Tower.
so
It's a
like
classic.
give us an image from a
Mhm.
distance,
Yeah.
real quick.
That's a classic one.
Yeah, so it's like to me the diamond or the X makes sense at this scale, and also because it's black on black, it just kind of blends in. The other one becomes graphic at a scale that's so large, but I think down the road I'm gonna end up liking that building.
I think
But
it will
I-
win us over.
I agree with Caleb though. Seeing the diamonds change,
It hurts.
Oh, I don't like it.
It hurts. You know, I don't know. I kind of high rises don't interest me that much, to be honest. But I do feel like the reason to talk about it is that it's like one of the most like noticeable things that gets kind of like in the public sphere, gets noticed and talked about, is these kind of iconic buildings that show up on skylines. So
Mhm. Also, a lot of architects work at firms that do skyscrapers. I mean, that's the other thing. Like most people are probably gonna work at a big firm.
Oh wait, we glossed over the coolest, or not the coolest, but one of the interesting ones. Can you go back to the first one really quick? I just want to talk about that for 5 seconds.
Is
But
it a digital
Kid,
project?
please, I want the job.
oh, yeah, I mean,
do you guys consider this digital or not digital?
Yeah, it's pixels.
Mhm.
But is that why you're calling it digital? Because it's pixel?
I mean, maybe that's a shortcut to saying it's
Do you
digital.
think it was manually made or like Grasshopper script or what? It kind of has like parametric vibes to me.
It does.
Mhm.
So I don't
Yeah.
know. Maybe. I
I
mean,
think a lot of the designs are parametric. Like,
Are they?
I forget, there was some housing project they did. I think it was like Valley Towers, I think it was called. That was completely. Is this it? No, this is not what.
I mean, it's interesting because they don't deal with the continuous surface project
Yeah.
in the same way that you might think of Zaha Hadid or some other
Right.
people. And I don't actually necessarily put the continuous surface as like a parametric thing. Obviously, there's the continuous house from years ago,
Mm-hmm.
decades ago that dealt with the surface
I-
project.
Oh, the render had a different seed of the.
So, oh yeah,
It's like if you scooch up
a
it
different
goes down.
seed. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, this was an earlier version.
Yeah.
Do you know how many iterations they have to do before they're like, this is the right level of pixelization?
I
I'm
know.
sure they did 1,000.
Also, just like going from SD to like DD and all that stuff until it finally built, like it changes so much, especially when you like do these renderings.
This reminds me. What about the HWKN towers in Jersey City? This one kind of reminds me of that, just like juiced up a little bit. Do you know what I'm talking about? Those three kind of
Which one?
identical towers in Jersey City. You
I
always
guess
see
two, isn't it?
that they built a third.
Did they?
Yeah.
Oh.
But sorry, why did we got on towers for
Yeah.
the digital project?
No, I think this was just like kind of a news current topic that's kind of been
notable
bouncing around. Notable skyscrapers. Let's move on though, because I want to hit this visual artist before we have to get to the other topic. We've been trying to feature artist accounts, and there's an artist that keeps popping up in my feed, and I realized a lot of people we kind of respect and know in the architecture world love this person and the collective that I didn't realize that he was a part of. But this guy does these amazing, beautiful, painterly, like almost drawings from 3D scans. So he's using photogrammetry to scan urban context, sometimes interiors, like what we're seeing on the screen now. But
What's his name?
I'm gonna butcher it. It's a Turkish name. Give me a second. Yeah, Erdal Inci. I apologize. I really apologize. I hope that's even close. But he started a collective.
And say his name.
Yeah, if we absolutely, please do. He also created a collective called Oddviz. Yeah, this one's really beautiful. Just how he's revealing the photogrammetry. But if you scroll to the right on that
It
board,
feels like fancy Sims, and I'm here for it.
fancy Sim. Could you go back to the board for just 1 second? So if you scroll down a little bit, he created this collective. It's called Oddviz. That's the account just below there. And the reason I also really appreciate the work is that he's using these three-dimensional scans, and his collective is kind of using these three-dimensional scans as a tool for collage. And in my view, it's like the next maybe the next chapter in this sort of sampling or collage technique. And if you look at this one that we're looking at now, this beautiful animation that's kind of this eroding urbanism, there's also another really gorgeous set of images that are kind of these urban components that have been anyway, they had a big exhibition called, let me find it, Urban Artifacts, I believe. But anyway, I just want to feature their work because I think it's super contemporary and relevant. And you know, we're joking about what's digital and what's not digital. This is certainly within the digital camp. I mean, he's using technology, using these 3D scanning, but I feel like the affect and the output they're getting is super material and immersive.
Well, you should put it in Fortnite.
Yeah, I mean, this goes down a very different sensibility, which is not about like the dumb and the kind of low fidelity. Nor is it referential to architecture in the same way. It's high fidelity. It's about technology. It's about a complexity. It's about a maximalism, but not in the way that you'd imagine like Zaha Hadid or some other kind of digital works of the elegant. It's a very different kind of grungy. And it fits more in the painterly, which is what I like a lot about it. Yeah. It's got this painterly aesthetic, which, I think the majority of people tend to kind of look at this as like, this looks like some 3D film that I like. It looks very nice. So in terms of like relating to pop culture, I think it does a good job. But, it's not necessarily, I look at this as art, right? Like it's art, it's good, it's influential, it's referencing.
But you can see why this would inspire some of the people that we might like, right? I mean, people that are looking for ways to reference other materials to sample the world.
Right.
I mean, this is a great way into that sort of maybe technique or that.
Yeah,
that way of
it's a great material and digital crossover that I think is awesome when it comes to thinking about like, again, aesthetics, when it comes about texture surface, resolution from low fidelity to high fidelity, translation. There's a lot of like deep work or thought built into this, which again, you know what? I'll say, this person does not need a academic paper to talk about this. They just need this.
Yep.
And to go back to the kind of social media stuff, like how many followers does this person have? They have a lot of likes on that post.
He has like 24,000.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, these views are getting like 2,000 likes or whatever. It's doing pretty good numbers there. So, obviously has an influence, and I don't know, like it also using video and visuals and video in a way that's like, it's like a fantasy. It's like not Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, or what's the one I'm thinking of, the Marvel Doctor Strange. You're about to open a portal or something. And to me, that's fascinating because I always want to use architecture in relation to something else. And when I start seeing the scan lines, like it's opening up possibilities of fantasy, which I just personally enjoy. I'm not saying it's for everybody.
It's kind of that world building thing, right? Like
Yeah.
it's world building with components of the real
Also
world.
looks like Where's Waldo just start populating this shit with a bunch of people. I have an obsession with Where's Waldo.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't know if you know this.
interesting.
Yeah.
You and my daughter could hang out. She loves Where's Waldo. No, these are beautiful though. I just want to shout this person out. I'm definitely going to be following the accounts and just keeping track of what they're working on. All right, should we get into our
Right
our
on
new...
time.
Yeah, good work, Nihar. Look at you timing the podcast. So I what we've done here, we've curated some student work. So what I would like to say about this just quickly before we jump in is that, we've talked about before on the podcast, we have this aspiration to launch a student design competition, and that's in the works, looking at MXD Arena. But I think as a prelude to that, we would like to start looking at more student work, and we've started doing that on our socials. If you don't follow us on Instagram, take a look. We've been reviewing some student work from the fall, looking at trends and trying to unpack what's happening in schools across the country. So today, what I've offered for you guys to take a look at and digest a little bit, I've selected 2 student projects from Ohio State University's Knowlton School of Architecture. There's 2 student projects from 2 different faculty members. These were posted on their social media accounts. And I think it's interesting to start to look at these, especially in terms of our conversation that we had today about aesthetics and maybe what some certain contemporary themes of aesthetics are. I'm very interested in the fact that there's these 2 projects, and we'll see them maybe together on the board at some point, but 2 projects that have maybe a very similar language. They're from different critics, different students, and actually we can shout those people out maybe as we start unpacking them. But I think what would be fun for this segment is like do what we do best a little bit, is maybe a little bit of a desk crit or a jury. Just look at the projects and try to read them a little bit and a little bit of compare and contrast. I have put the project descriptions there if we want to unpack them at all. We don't think we need to read them out loud, but if you guys want to reference them.
Sometimes when you're reviewing, and obviously we didn't go to this person's review. I have no idea who these people are. But the thing is, if you go to someone's review and the student is presenting, sometimes we want to unpack the project in ways that may seem inappropriate or out of context in that presentation, not helpful for that presentation given what they just presented. And so sometimes you need to kind of come back to a project and as a critic, I should say, and just try to unpack it, decontextualize from the student presenting. So it's not personal. It's just us kind of analyzing the work, especially when we put it next to other projects. We can have a disciplinary conversation for those that want to hear it. Mm-hmm. And sometimes when you have those disciplinary conversations, it might get into territories that make students feel uncomfortable or like, I didn't talk about that. Why are you talking about that? It's not very helpful, as you said. Mm-hmm. So what we're trying to do here is just kind of get deeper into a project and talk about student work because they do fit in the disciplinary framework that we do think is influential, but we think it's more appropriate to do it outside of it. So I would like to do that with some of the student work I see at RPI and other places. So.
Yeah. And I think just as a note, we'll try to feature different institutions, different critics. And, if by the way, if anybody wants to offer us projects, our DMs are open.
Send us work. We want to review your work.
We'd love to look at your work, and we'd love to look at what your school is
Okay,
doing.
So these are 2 projects from Ohio State, right?
Yes.
Do we know what year?
Both of them are from last year, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
All right, so let's. Who wants to take a lead at this? What are we looking at here?
I mean, let's just categorize some things that we're seeing. Christiana, do you want to start, or do you want me to start?
Why don't you start?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, there's some obvious ones. We're looking at a lot of color, right? Which for a long time, I mean, many of you, I think, know this. Architecture was allergic to color, and most critics would be like, "No, white." But now we're seeing very exuberant, colorful projects. We're looking at primitive geometries. We're looking at symbols. You can find some arrows. You can find some spirals, some cones. We're also seeing, this is the first project, by the way, Playplex. We're also seeing what you might call almost like a referential sort of gabled form that's been extruded through the project. And of course, it's not lying flat on the ground. It's slightly destabilized. So we're hitting on a lot of tropes that we've already talked about a little bit today.
And let's say the student, shout out the student.
Yeah, the student is Drew Barton, and the critic is Samiha Meem, who I already follow. I don't know her work well, but I do follow her.
Man, this checks off all the tropes of the aesthetic that we were talking about earlier. The identifiable parts, the pitched roof. Mm-hmm. Let's go.
Yeah. And then, maybe let's talk really quick about the other one, and then we can look at both. So the other one is also very similar. We're looking at, again, a colorful field of objects. But this one I think is a little bit different, that they don't necessarily... Student is Christian... where is it? Heidenreich?
Yeah.
Heidenreich.
and then Sandhya Kochar is the critic, I believe. Sorry, I was having trouble reading that. But yeah, a similar sort of aesthetic, you might say, at initial glance, is that, again, we're looking at primitive geometries. We're looking at primitive geometries that have been modified or sort of like lightly assembled in ways, and then they sort of have maybe a casual relationship in this other field, right? And it's establishing almost like this figure ground between those objects. For what it's worth, the last project was a daycare center. When I read the description, this one is a community. It's a series of community assets. So if you look at the drawing,
it's funny
below,
you say that because I didn't give a crap of what the program
No, it doesn't
was.
matter. I'm going to list it though because some people will care.
No, I know. I think it's important. I think that's one of the issues that I'm finding myself kind of dealing with now. It's like when I see something this flashy, I guess, I tend not to even question the program or the function of it. Which you might say, well, this is a typology argument, right? It's not an argument of the building and how it functions. And so maybe my first critique is, if you want me to care about how this building functions as a building, I don't think you're presenting it that way. And I'm not saying you should present it that way, but like it's going to be very hard for me to dive into how the building works. I don't care how anyone presents it, because most likely people are going to present this work as like, this building functions this way, here's some pools and here's whatever. Right. But like, I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, that's not what you're presenting. You're presenting this as like a model kit, right? It's like a bunch of pieces deassembled. And I think the one moment that actually is striking is the way it fits in the site. That to me, because of its figuration, actually carves its way, or like positions or nests itself into the site in a way that seems to be productive. To influence how that site gets used. So can you go back to the right there. Can you zoom into that black and white drawing? I think it's black and white. I don't know what color that is. The X.
Well,
no, not that one. Not that.
Color.
It's the red. It's the red one.
Yeah,
Maggie.
red one. Sorry.
It's the red one.
I love Maggie's expression. The white one.
What?
Now I see it from a distance. It was kind of it's like dark gray. Okay.
I also was like, what are we all looking
let's not shame him for his disability. Move on.
Okay. The X is here, right? Like the way it kind of carves and like it influences the pedestrian crosswalk.
That's cool.
Like that actually is interesting because now you've seen how like influences the city and the site outside of its plot. You can make arguments for probably both of them, how the figure separates space. But I think the way it's presented, especially with they're both model heavy too. Very model heavy. Yeah. The drawings representation is all excellent. I don't really have comments about that. Nice. It's your option to represent your project however you want. I think there's probably an argument behind it. I don't know what the argument is per se. I mean, besides kind of fitting within the typology. Like to me, then I bring up is like, okay, so how is this any different than an English Tudor house, right? There's many different English Tudor houses. Everyone, when they see them, they know it. They know they weren't made by the same architects. They weren't made in the same time period. So to me, I think we start to fall into that trap a little bit of, is it just stylistic and when you see it, you know it type of situation? I think if we zoom out to the first project, there's something interesting, which is self-referential to, I think, existing projects. I'm pretty sure that stair, the taller one, is the Richard Rogers stair.
It looks a lot like Lloyd's of London.
Yeah, Lloyd's of London. Yeah. It looks very, very similar to that.
Wouldn't be surprised if.
And so now you're taking found objects as architectural historical, elements, components, and reappropriating its scale, reappropriating its function, and contextualizing it in this kind of collage-y way, right? Because so these projects, we could both say they're not actually collage in the same way you think. I think of like 80s pop art, with like graphic pop art that kind of looks confetti-like, and it's all like shape-based. You're supposed to kind of read the shapes overlaying on top of one another.
I wouldn't say collage. I would say maybe synthetic or something else.
I would call this collage, though. Like it's hard. I mean, we're not talking about collage of. It's like the literal act of collaging pieces together. If you take pieces that are decontextualizing and overlay them, it is a collage. It's not the 60s, 70s collage. I think it is a form of kind of hodgepodging. I guess you can call it kit bashing, but I think kit bashing is slightly different in the way it's supposed to be understood.
The difference there might be also that pieces and the resolution of the pieces is less defined, and they're a little bit more abstracted, maybe you could say, than the kit bashers, who would be maybe almost be looking for a certain resolution, right?
Yeah, you're supposed to read the multiplicity as a
Right,
whole in the kit bashing, where this is not necessarily like that.
One note between these two projects, if you could zoom out for a second, Maggie. The one on the right, we talked about the idea that these are objects that sort of, they kind of don't have a relationship with one another. It's more about experiencing the space between them. But the thing I'm really enjoying about the project on the left is that, and this is me just, again, my personal bias from my own interest in my own work, is that it's forcing a collision of those bodies. They're not allowed to remain isolated. And the collision of those bodies is where that interior section gets, I think, really interesting. Now, you could argue, is it appropriate for what it's trying to be as a program? I don't know. But I think formally, I find that project really really pleasing. I don't know. Christiana, what do you think?
I really liked Waleed's lead-in of like, I don't even know what the program is and I don't care. I just want to underscore that because I do find or think, and I wonder, so I'm just like wondering where this comes from. Our students, for good reason, not all of them, but for good reason, I think are very program forward, or like using that as justification. And when I read the little paragraphs too, I feel like there is just this like crisis moment of justifying architecture through something like program, or I think they used like some of the justification in here was like changing parts or indexing color coded and needing to do all of this heavy lifting about why it is the way it is. But I think what we're attracted to is like the formal, like typological work, the color, all these things that are independent of the justifications for why it works the way it does. So I don't know. I'm just wondering like why the aesthetic register is undermined in advocation of like the justifying it working in a particular way. So I like that our conversation has pointed that out, because we haven't had a conversation about how these things are actually working. It's all about how they appear.
Yeah. And I think
objects,
maybe for the students that might listen, or for our students, it's really tough to explain this to students that, like, of course, program matters immensely. And as you move into your career, it matters a ton. But for you to develop your own, maybe not to use this word project, or sensibility or ideas, sometimes you have to really not foreground that. And it can really get in the way of you trying to understand your own work. So I actually had the same feeling when I was reading the descriptions last night, prepping this, was thinking like, it's interesting because both of these, they're from different studios, different, I think even different levels. I actually am not 100% sure on that.
Which is wild.
It is. But they both felt the need to maybe justify the formalism of their projects through the programmatic and almost even the type of program. Notice one is for children. It's about play.
I thought about that too.
Yeah, and the other one is about community assets or things that are providing something to community. And again, not to say, guys, those are important things, but sometimes if we foreground those things, they do undermine maybe the other ingredients of the project that might be really important. So.
Yeah, I guess a question for you guys too, maybe in both projects, but it came up for me in the one on the right, is use of color as like diagrammatic flash and its relationship to actual materiality. And I don't know, in a project like this, I don't know if that matters, or because it's like not going to be built. It's purely a discursive kind of.
But you're dismissing the fact that it could be built, because I think the whole point of this is people resorted to this kind of like lo-fi looking stuff is because it's impossible to build the digital project. So let's do this because it's actually buildable. I think the question is, how ugly is this going to end up looking?
But your question is interesting, though, because you're saying you could have foregrounded a material property that might have been another quality that could have emerged in the project. But instead, we're actually saying, like, we don't care about that. Actually, it's about this graphic expression.
Well, look,
I'm asking that, like, what is it?
Yeah, no, I want to follow up with this because the next question might lead to what this actually looks like, in my opinion, or it could, is what are the references? What do we think the references are here? Because this fits in a larger discipline, and I want to go beyond just kind of the generation conversation we had earlier, like, because even that, like, those people are not working in a vacuum. They're referencing people. A lot of people reference Michael Meredith and Hilary Sample from Moss. That they're the kind of people that they looked at. But
it feels mossy.
Who were they looking at? Who was Moss looking at? Yeah. You know, like, this isn't in a vacuum. There's kind of a larger lineage. So what do you think some of the references could be? Let's not say Robert Venturi because I don't think that's the answer we
No,
want to say
I don't
here.
think so.
I could be very off because I do
That's
feel like
fine.
an outsider to these. But the one on the left did give me like Shumi-ish.
Shumi.
Vibe.
Well, it's a
Interesting.
fall. It feels like a folly. I
The
mean,
Letty,
I actually really could see that a little bit. I mean, there's certain degrees of playfulness in the way that the folly disarms certain things that the architecture is supposed to do, right? So
and
the gabled
color,
form is
the-
not stationary. It's slightly, what would you call it? Destabilized, I guess you could say.
This is me as a outsider.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's not the first reference in mind, but I do think there's a reason to say like, oh yeah, and even the vibrancy of the color.
Could I suggest
But
a
what-
potential of?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I was gonna say John Haydick, but I don't think my mind doesn't go to John Haydick. It was Mark de Suvero. He was an assemblage artist back in the 1930s. I had researched him for my 83 project, but his thing was about these kind of like he used those like red steel beams that kind of intersected to create these random things, but it was kind of these things that kind of intersected these random shapes, and I kind of combined that in my head with I guess John Haydick because like they're very wacky shapes, but like
There we
they're
go with the
forms-
wacky.
but they're forms that kind of intersect each other with intentionality, though it may not seem as if so.
Yeah.
Those are the two things that come to my mind.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good one. I'm not familiar
mean,
with the work.
I know which one you're going to bring up.
Oh.
Yeah, I want to hear you
Bob
guys'.
Sommel.
No.
The one on the
Oh,
right? You don't think there's any of the
No.
graphic?
No,
the
I mean,
graphic, the
like, I
projective?
guess that goes to the kind of the post-critical, the easy, the blah, blah, blah. I mean, whatever. I guess I'm just saying, like, what architects that deal with these, like, profiles. Like, to me, I think of OMA as, like, one of the first ones that kind of really start to kind of deal with the profile and the language of let's say, types that are imprinted into plans. You could think of the Paris Library. There's two of them. The other one, the Grand Bibliothèque, whatever. That's one of them. There's other projects as well. And the other thing that sticks out is I posted on the Moreau board, if you could just kind of scroll bottom left under the towers, is Sam Jacobs' practice, FAT.
Oh, yeah.
So if you look at some of I think a lot of people are influenced by Sam Jacob, who has a close relationship with Bob Sommel at UIC as well, because he's taught there for many, many years now. And he's built a lot of the work that students' projects try to maybe imitate. And this is what it looks like. And I'm not saying it's good or bad or whatever, but the materiality, this is what it looks like.
Definitely graphic,
Yeah.
highly playful, colorful, exuberant. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think a lot of, maybe students do know of the work FAT. I think I don't know if they still are operational anymore, but like, I don't know if they know the work, what it looks like, if this is their intentions, or if it's meant to always remain in model land, which if it remains in model land, I'm okay with that. It's just, what are you referencing? Because I think a lot of people might say, hey, that gives me a lot of postmodernist, historical, irony, playfulness that it's being referenced in Sam Jacobs' work. Look, I'm not here to critique Sam Jacobs. I like the work a lot. I think he's very brilliant. I just don't know if students look beyond the graphic part, right? Because to me, there's a lot of historicism in this. There's a lot of maybe pop culture references that maybe that one doesn't, meaning that the two projects don't have in the same capacity. I don't think they don't have it. I think it's very different than Sam Jacobs. And I just kind of always, when I start seeing these projects, I'm like, okay, eventually it's going to end up looking like Moss's work or Sam Jacobs' work, or maybe somewhere between. It definitely does not look like Ome's work. I'll say that, even though it has I think the DNAs
There's
of
the
that
DNA of
discipline.
it, yeah.
And so then the question is, why does Ome's work look like that? Maybe we ran out of time, but that's a question to be asked.
Yeah, no.
Where does it fit in that discipline?
I love the reference, though. I think that's a really good catch. And to the post-critical conversation or the easy project in a way, it's like, yeah, maybe the students are referencing some of these things, or maybe their critic is, and maybe they're not. But I mean, maybe we don't always connect the dots of these projects till after they're done, and that's also okay. I would be interested to hear the critics talk about it a little bit, because I'm sure that there's maybe even a much more specific lineage that they're plugged into.
Yeah.
Right.
But no, I think this is super fun, though, guys. I hope we do more of these. And I mean it, guys. If you guys want us to look at your work, please send it to us. We're happy. Our DMs are open, as you might say. And we'd love to do a lot more of this. I think this is fun. And if nothing else, I think it's fun for us to try to connect these dots. And the fact that we didn't hear from these students, but we did kind of get to read some of their description, I think it's like getting to read a project like half blind, which I think is really fun. So.
Yeah.
All
And
right.
don't take my words seriously. I'm a stupid person. So.
Well,
That
I
goes for
think
me too.
it's suffice to say the projects were chosen because they're cool.
They're very good, obviously.
Like the
I-
models are insane.
And it seems like OSU has a lot of actually interesting work still happening. It's great to see. It's fun to look through their social media accounts and see some of these, like, honestly, really exceptional student projects. So.
I really like OSU. I think the people that come out of it, because I know quite a few, they're really smart people. Like that you get the good quality work, and you also get like intelligence that they come out.
It's that
from programs.
Ohio core, man.
Oh,
It's working.
Shout out to end of season 1. And on that, Christiana, I'm going to ask you to say goodbye to our.
Oh man, I need to think of good.
Oh my
goodbyes.
goodness, you had 2-3 weeks to think about.
I
this.
know. All Ohio, you later.
And then she knocks it out of the park.
God.